People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, guys, this is a podcast I've been looking forward to for a long time. This is one of my heroes in magic. I grew up watching her on television. I have magic magazines with her on the cover. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. There's so many different things all through my magic career. She's been an idol to me. Everybody, it's Charlotte Pendragon.
Woo!
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Wes and Natalie.
Oh my gosh, Charlotte, I can't begin to tell you how much of an inspiration you are to us. We didn't want to do Metamorphosis in our show because you guys already did it. You did it. Why even try? You know?
We can't do better, that's sure.
Yeah. No. So for the non-magician listeners out there, Charlotte's half of the Pendragons, that was Jonathan and Charlotte Pendragon, that toured the world for how many years, Charlotte? How long did you guys tour together?
Close to 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like 33 and a half years or so. Yeah.
33 years. And then they ended up getting a divorce. And now are you performing on your own now as Charlotte Pendragon or just doing the writing and things on your own?
Well, since COVID, we restructured everything we were doing, of course. Everybody started going to videos. And because we're going to be doing videos anyway, Randy's a musician and he writes all of my songs for my show. Our plan was to do concept type videos of my work and his work and then tour with both those together, collaborate together.
Wow.
Once COVID happened and then we had to have lockdowns and, invent green rooms, we created this stage here you see today, And so we're getting ready to launch our website, which will have these videos of our work sometime this early spring, we're anticipating. In the meantime, I've been writing my articles on, called the Charlotte Pendragon Diaries on Substack, that will be part of that website as well.
Awesome. I know it's getting reviewed real well. Everybody's commenting on it. I see all the comments on there. People are loving it. So Randy is your new husband. You guys did get married, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And you guys been together now?
Yes, we're together. Yes.
How long?
I'm sorry?
How long you and Randy been together now?
We've been together since the summer of 2009.
Okay.
Which shortly after Jonathan and I departed, we were together. And I met him because my brother had passed away earlier that year. And that was the summer they were having a class reunion. So I was on Classmates when I just happened to run into Randy, back when everybody used Classmates and not everybody was on Facebook and MySpace. That seemed to be a social media outlet that got more people together from your past. So we've been together since that point. But Randy was, in high school, he was my boyfriend. He was the first boy I dated. So it's ended up full circle in a lot of ways, romantically for me and me and him.
Wow.
I love that.
Cool. Yeah.
I love that so much. That is so sweet.
I had no idea. So I know he played. What kind of music does he play?
He plays rock and roll and mostly pop, music that he writes his own music, but he plays a lot of cover songs as well.
That's awesome.
So I think people like it.
Go ahead.
I think people will like his music. He has some on his YouTube channel.
And what is that? Let's plug it.
It's Randy Leslie on YouTube.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's get back. Let's start with your career in 35 years. We only have an hour and there's no way we can touch it. But so what I know about you fits in a thimble. I love you, but I don't know that much. And this is why we have you here. Gymnast, bodybuilder. Were you a bodybuilder or just a gymnast?
When I was in high school and college, I was a gymnast. And because of my athletic background and to a serendipitous moment of a friend of mine suggesting I be a bodybuilder because she had known Joe Weider, I got into bodybuilding. At that time, it's not like bodybuilding is today where the women are very muscular and built. In those days, they're pretty much whatever gymnast you saw was a bodybuilder. So it's growing like in a different, it's not what it used to be. Bodybuilding today isn't the bodybuilding from back in, the early 1980s, late 70s.
Well, I mean,
first began.
You could have been on the cover of Muscle and Fitness back then, though. Were you on any magazines like that as well? Because you were on the cover of Magic magazines in bathing suits.
My bodybuilding career really only was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years at its very birth. And although I never did a cover, I'm featured a lot in Muscle and Fitness and Shape, I think, and Flex. There's, a lot of different bodybuilding magazines, modeling,
That is awesome.
Life.
That is so awesome. So if the world that doesn't know you, I just want to let everybody know, countless television appearances. Do you have any idea how many times you guys were on television in those 35 years?
I never really kept count. Most of our work, though, was done in Europe, especially in England and France and Germany, Italy, all over, Japan. When I start thinking about it, we were everywhere. I don't know.
Your career was kind of pre-social media, so it's hard. I mean, we only see what we saw on television. So that was one of the questions I had for you.
Yeah.
Besides television specials, gala events, magic conventions, what was your guys' bread and butter? What kept you guys busy?
During those times, well, there was the analog world, so it was a whole different world. What kept us busy was just shows all over the world. Basically, we began on cruise ships. I think that was one of the, first where, consistently where we were able to build a lot of material. And in those days, not a lot of magicians were cruising. And it was, pre Love Boat years, so you didn't have nearly the amount of cruise ships or the size of cruises. It was a much smaller industry. It grew rapidly after Love Boat, came out. And it also generated a much younger audience. So that demand created new shows, younger performers, younger music, everything. Because before that, that was pretty much geared towards older people, because it was the only older people that could really afford to, cruise all over the world. So Love Boat opened up a lot more and less expensive cruises as well.
So did you guys get into the cruise industry after Siegfried and Roy, or were you guys at the same
Siegfried
time?
and Roy were in the cruise industry in the 60s.
Okay.
And they got off the cruises, to be in Las Vegas. And then and I know I'm not leaving people. I mean, there's people I'm probably leaving out, but the one person I think who was very influential during that time in the 70s, cruising before us, was Paul Fiddler. He opened the door for us. And together we both opened the door for a lot of other magicians once Love Boat came on.
Now, I know Paul Fiddler from that's the fire guy, right?
Yes, fire. He's a fire magician and exotic animals, but mostly, alligators, he's worked with, but fire, a lot. And illusions, just like Jonathan and I. In fact, our first sub-trunk we bought from Paul, which we were able to, because of that design, it helped us create the switch that we came up with that we're so famous for.
All right, so you brought it up. Let's get into it. 2008, YouTube is new. new to me. It might have came out a couple of years before that, but I'm new on it. And I'm watching you guys, and I'm pausing it, and I'm looking, and I'm pausing it. I'm not seeing anything. And I find something that's like, it explains it. And I'm like, all right, I got to see it. What? Now, listen, I know magicians explaining secrets could be a 13-year-old in his basement that has no idea what he's talking about. And that's what it was. It was saying that you guys made a deal with the devil, and that's how it happened. And for a split second, Charlotte, I was like, they must have. God bless them. They must have. It was so amazing, Charlotte. I'm a magician at this point in 2008, and I could not wrap my head around. Other people did it well. Other people did it fine. You guys made it unfathomably fast.
Right.
Doug Henning famously, 1, 2, 3, it's me. But it was more like 1, 2, 3, it's me. You guys, it was just done.
Right.
Wow. And a costume change, honey.
Right.
Yeah, the way it had been done previous to our speed switch was the count. Usually the typical performance was 1, 2, 3, it's me. And what we did was shave off all of that counting. 1, 2, 3. I don't know if that's 30 seconds. I've never timed that. So we took out off a lot of time. So it's difficult to compete with the type of switch we came up with, because where else can you go with it? You can't like shave any more seconds off, because it's it's like a swimming contest. Only the clock can tell you which one's faster. So
I mean,
I'm pretty proud of that. That we were able to do that. I don't know if that was a plan of ours from the, like, we sat down and planned it out. We're going to create the fastest metamorphosis, transformation in history. But I think we wanted to have something different. And because of our athletic background, we were able to perform it well like that. And there's a few other, what I want to call it, elements that were just gifted to us. Jonathan's body was the correct size for what he was doing, and mine as well. When we did the switch, we look like we're doing a transformation because we're about the same. I'm just a little bit shorter than him. He's not, really tall, and I'm not really short, or, vice versa. There was a nice symmetry to how we both look together. And to contrast that between his very light skin and, blonde hair, and my more olive Mediterranean look, added to it as well. Just like Siegfried and Roy, they have a lot of contrast because of the two distinct characters. That helped. Another thing that helped also is, Jonathan's arms are much longer than other arm spans. Your arm span out like this should be, I don't know if you can see this, but from your fingertip to the other fingertips outstretched should be your same height. That's the balance of the human body. With Jonathan, his arms probably stretched an extra foot, like an ape. So that allowed him to reach out further than most magicians can to grab the cloth. It definitely gave us an edge, I believe.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
because when you see Jonathan in the cloth, he's able to really do that like nobody else.
I mean, I was trying to figure out I bought your DVD that explained everything, and I love it. It's awesome. The DVD where you break down all those.
Oh yeah, and we show it from behind. And what do you think of how it looks from behind?
I was thinking that you had a bungee system. You go faster than gravity. There's no way you can fall that fast. Wow. I don't want to reveal methods, but wow.
That's the magic. All right,
Yeah, oh my gosh. Okay, maybe she did make a deal with the devil, because that makes no sense. That's for a split second, I was praying for your soul. So
well, I remember magicians backstage used to watch us. Like if we would do a show with a multi-magician show, they would all come out just to watch our sub-trunk perform backstage, because they wanted to see what it looked like. And every time they would all say the same thing, that it looked more amazing backstage behind the scene than it did from the front, because you would expect to be able to figure it out from behind the scenes, and they couldn't, you know. So
Well, Natalie and I ended up buying one, and we're closer to Doug Henning than you guys.
Mhm.
But another thing that really helps us is she's 5'10", I'm 5'5". So we do it the same way you do, because I'm in the box and I have to come up on top, right? So I'm
right.
in the box. That's the way you guys did it, right? It was always
Yes.
so I catch and reveal. Yeah. But that really helps us. That gives us another half a second, another second. Just because of the height, she could throw it up. Just barely doing this, she's got another half higher than if I was throwing it for her.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, that works for you. That makes it, that makes it a lot, you have to use those things to your advantage. For us, that was a happy discovery. I mean, we we didn't plan growing Jonathan's arms long or doing,
right.
And for Jonathan, he had a, that if you're the person that's going to switch to the top position, like yourself, Wes, that it's not an easy job. It's gravity can help you the other way, but not, if you're going north, it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
and I don't know what I do because it's muscle memory. If I think about it, I will mess it up. And we have practice. I practice completely closing my eyes in the trunk, because there are lights from stage that shine in and I can see. But it's better if I just always practice with my eyes closed, even making the switch, because sometimes lighting isn't that good on different stages that we're at. So I always do it blind.
Yes, exactly. I've had that problem too. Especially like blue light when it shines over the top of it and you can't see where you're standing on the trunk. That can be very hazardous. So it's good you do that. We had an assistant who had, she was blind in one eye, and she was really an exceptional assistant because she learned everything almost blind, so she could do a lot on stage, which I won't say here, but she was very good in the sawing in half,
Wow.
She took care of my lower half, and another gal took care of my upper half. And she was really good at teaching it too, because she just had it down in her head.
There's little nuances and muscle memory that just make everything of that trick. You can't explain it. It's hard to write it down. I guarantee it was hard for you guys to put that DVD box set together, because there was things that came up that's like, oh yeah, I do that at that point. Did stuff like that happen?
I'm trying to.
It was so long ago. You probably put that out 15 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago that we did that for L&L Publishing. At that time he was located up in Lake Tahoe. But since then Louis passed away. He's no longer with us. We did the metamorphosis out on his patio. That was done out on his patio overlooking Lake Tahoe, out up on a balcony. So we're really high up. Doesn't appear that way in the video that you saw on the DVD, but it was high up. And if you look at the video again, you'll notice that when I throw the cloth up, you can see through it because there's light behind us, from the lake, and you still don't see anything. It adds to the mystery. It looks like my shadow, you see my shadow, like a silhouette, and that kind of vanishes. And then when it opens, it looks like this silhouette turned into Jonathan behind the cloth.
Beautiful. So awesome.
Neat. Yeah.
I told Natalie, so we saw you guys for my birthday 15 years ago, 12 years ago.
It was before Lana was born.
So Lana's turning 12 this December. So it's before my little girl was born. My oldest child is still my little girl. For my birthday, she got me tickets to see you guys. And it was it was where you guys did right after he got hurt with an arrow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
you guys came to Charlottesville, Virginia, and I waited backstage for an autograph, and the stagehand said no, because of the germs, he's not signing anything. Okay, but as we were waiting for the thumbs up or whatever, I told Natalie before the podcast, she's laughing already. I just saw the metamorphosis behind the curtain. And to me, that was like a celebrity. So I told her, I said, in my mind, it like had an aura over it. I swear I heard angels singing. That thing just, that was as more as a star, just as much of a star to me to see that box as to see you guys there. It was like a threesome. You guys toured the world with that thing. It was so awesome. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sorry I didn't get to like talk to you and sign anything. I mean, I'll send you a signature, now.
This means the world to me, having this time with you, sweetie. Yeah. I mean, you sold the Sands of Egypt, and I bought that from you. And that was a great package that I got from you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Jonathan created the bowl. Well, I mean, it's actually based on a smaller type trick. It's just expanded to a larger bowl. And but it was a routine that he put together, and it's pretty marvelous because you can do it a little bit different than the usual sands. And I mean, it gives you routine options, definitely, that expands what you're doing.
So do you still sell that package deal?
Yes, I have them. When I have my website back up, then I'll have like a whole store and have some of those products up. But when people contact me, then I sell them to them. I was doing it through Murphy's Magic, but I changed just because I wanted to control my own product, and it became too demanding. Although they were really good for me. But there's only so many of those I can produce, and if there's like a huge demand, I won't be able to have a lot of them to fill what they're doing. So I sell them one at a time when somebody wants one.
So in the meantime, they can contact you how?
Usually on Facebook.
Okay.
They can do that. Until I get my website or Instagram. I'm on Instagram too.
Do you know the URL for your website that's coming out in the spring? You already purchased the website name?
Yes, it's going to be called the Magic and the Music.
The Magic and the Music.com.
Yes, .com. Yes.
All right. Very, very cool.
That'll be great.
So when I was talking about you performing all over the world, how many presidents and kings and queens did you guys perform for, you think?
Let's see. Let me try to think. I know that we performed in Malaysia for a sultan.
Oh,
because
wow.
he threw a big party for our show at a restaurant in a really nice hotel. We didn't ever see him because he wanted everything blacked out. The whole party was black out. It was outside on a patio, but you still couldn't see. To see the food, they had candles lit, and you still really couldn't see what you were eating. But I remember meeting him in a booth and talking to him, but we couldn't see him at all. I mean, I don't think he could see us. It was a very weird party. So, yeah. I mean, I think that was my first royalty. If sultans are royal, I think they are. After that, the Queen. I mean, that was a real big surprise. We performed for the Queen of England for a show where the Royal Variety Gala in London. And then afterwards, a big dinner at the Ritz. And a lot of celebrities. I mean, just the celebrities there alone, like Olivia Newton-John, I felt like it was a great honor to meet her, and then here she's meeting the Queen alongside myself and Jonathan and, other celebrities similar to her status. And they're just as excited as we were to meet her. So it was a weird feeling, to be elevated to that level, but at the same time, seeing other celebrities kind of lower themselves as well, because you're meeting this person that's one of the most famous in all the world, and
wow.
We had to learn to bow and curtsy before, we had lessons in social protocol when meeting the Queen. And on stage, I had to change my routine so my back wasn't turned to her. which, and you know how that is, like when you're doing a routine and you're used to one side and now you have to do it on the other side. You know, usually dancers can accommodate that because you learn both sides, but I hadn't learned both sides of what we were doing. You know, so quick I had to change my routine around,
Wow.
you know, before the show.
So what is the class like? Is just one of the handlers takes you aside and takes you and a whole bunch of other celebrities, or do they give it one-on-one with you and Jonathan? How does that work?
I think they gave us a whole class together and then one-on-one later. You know, we all met for the finale because we had to learn the finale. And then they gave us some protocol lessons.
Wow.
You know, and one of them was, you know, was not to shake her hand unless she reached out. It was a lot more, it made you really nervous, but the rules were really, you know, a short list. Basically, don't talk to her unless she talks to you, and then be a certain way, and, you know, shake her hand if she reaches out to you. You know, 3 rules. You know?
Wow.
But, you know, before I met her, I was like so nervous I wasn't going to do something right, you know, and get kicked out or something, you know.
So the family as well, or just the queen?
I'm sorry.
Was there
No, the Queen and Prince Philip at that particular one. Yes, you know. And then we performed a second one for Prince Charles, which is for V-Day, which is a really big celebration in England. And that's done every year. And the same caliber. He wasn't with Princess Diane. They had just separated when we performed that show. So I was disappointed I didn't get to meet her, but excited I got to meet him and was really honored to do so. He's a member of the Inner Magic Circle in London. He's a magician himself.
So did you guys talk magic? I did know that. Did you guys
Yes,
talk
we did talk about magic. When he walked through to shake every hand, you know, he stopped for a minute or two at each performer. And then when he came to us, because of the magic and his interest in it, he spent about 10 minutes with us talking about the metamorphoses and, you know, card tricks, and just
That's
like any magician.
And then Muhammad Ali and everybody else who cared. Yeah. That's funny.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
Wow.
You know, I mean, my disappointment was that Diana wasn't with him. I was Princess Diana had been. The interesting thing about that is that the night that we were performing for the Queen, Princess Diana was in the United States being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey for her famous, you know, interview where she talks about, you know, the gossip of the royal family. So after the gala performance for the Queen, all the TV news channels showed her driving up to the event and then covering the story about what's happening in the United States with Princess Diana. You know, so that had to have been kind of a tough night for her. I mean, there at that show, that had to been all that was on her mind was, I mean, it would be if it was me, right?
Right.
If I was the Queen.
Knowing that a scandal's unfolding and you're at a magic show. Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it either.
Yeah. Clean up crew later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you also met presidents. How many presidents did you guys perform for? I know the Kennedy Center. Didn't you do that several times?
It wasn't the Kennedy Center, although I wish it was the Kennedy Center. That would have been great too. It was a Ford's Theater where Lincoln was assassinated. And it's every year this show is produced and presented on TV usually. And for us, we performed for Clinton, you know, President Clinton and First Lady Hillary Clinton. The first year, I think, was 95. May have been 94. I can't remember. I get those years all kind of mixed up. But anyway, we performed for him. And it was, I mean, that was amazing too, because we have the fire cage, you know, where I'm produced before we perform our basket with all the swords. And when I was, I'm inside the cage, of course, so I can't see anything. But in the Ford Theater is very small. It's an intimate show, you know, theater. It's not really large.
Is
So
it
when
five-
it's full and if the lights are on, you can see who's watching you. And so this is a TV show, and they had like a spotlight on both President Hillary, President, Clinton and First Lady Hillary. And so when I came out of the basket, all I saw, because the rest of the theater was darkened, was their faces smiling at us. And I wasn't sure whether to get stage fright or what to do about it. So I just played with it and tried to pretend it wasn't them. So the whole show, they were watching us. We just saw these two people, smiling at us. On the video, when we do our metamorphosis, they both sit there with their mouths open. And that's showing on the TV special. I always say you could see President Clinton's feelings back there. Looking up.
That's awesome. Switch. I mean, it would be worse to come out of the box and they're just sitting there like this. Like, when's the next
like
act?
That, or you come out of the fire cage and they're not. They just they don't look like they don't want to be there.
Having them smiling and gasping. Great, yeah, right. That's something.
So that was like, oh my gosh, I mean, and they must have been maybe, I think, the first or second row in. They're very close. I mean, maybe 15 feet away, if that.
Do you think for like a 300 seat, 500 seat, 1500 seat? What's small to you? I don't know.
I think it's about a 300, maybe 500 at the most. But I think it's pretty intimate. It's pretty small theater. It's not very, very large.
What do you think is the biggest venue you've performed at?
The largest venue we've performed at was in Indiana at the Coliseum in Indianapolis. I'm not sure what that's called, but they have a big,
like the
stadium dome, where they have all the football. And we performed for that field for interesting. What was it? It was a corporate show. Actually, no, it wasn't a corporate show. It was for the Rotary Club. That's who it was for. I started to say Elks Club, but it was for the Rotary Club.
So did they fill the place? Or were you at one side?
Yes, it was for like 25,000 people. And I was really excited. I go, wow, we're going to have a video with us performing for 25,000 people. But they never panned the camera over to show the audience. So all you see is us on stage performing, which is fine, except you have no idea if we're performing for 100 people, 2 people, or nobody, or 25,000 people. So the response shows there's a lot of people. And then another time we performed in another stadium in Edmonton for the Edmonton Oilers. We opened their season, and they're very high on the list to win that year, right? They're like one of the top teams. And they put out like a big carpet out on the middle of the ice, and everybody's waiting there for the game, anticipating all these players to come out and start playing hockey. And you know how hockey players are, and hockey enthusiasts, they're wilder than football. So we were out in the middle of it was darkened, and here we are in the middle, and they had a spot on us, and then they announced our name. And I think we opened with Interlude. I can't remember. I know we did Interlude and the Impalement and Metamorphosis. I think we did those 3 tricks. And the audience started booing when they heard our name. We're in that big, giant stadium with like 30,000 people going, boo, And but by the time we finished our show, we won them over, and they really liked us. So at halftime, we were scheduled to come out again. That's when we did our trunk. I think another, maybe the fire basket. And then, the reception was a lot better because they had already been introduced to us, and we proved ourselves. So, that blew me away, because I was going, oh my gosh, my heart sank. You're right in the middle of this. This is so embarrassing. I hope we don't have tomatoes thrown at us. But instead, we won them over, and the second half we did great. Then we got the go upstairs and in the owner's private booth, watch the rest of the hockey show, and it was a It's a fascinating sport. I'd never been to a hockey game, so that was my first.
And to get booed when you first walk out with 30,000 people.
Right.
Golly. Yeah. That was, you had like a roller coaster of emotions that night.
It was definitely. And when we had gotten there, we had flown from China. So we were really tired with jet lag, and we only had a day. I think we got there, and then we rehearsed the one day, and then the next day we did the show. But something happened to our impalement; it broke. So we had to fix that in our hotel room all night, and it was just we turned something miserable into something amazing. You know, overall it was a great experience. You know, I don't.
So talking about all the celebrities and the kings and queens and presidents that you performed with, Princess Stephanie, she was a part of that, right? Weren't you a part of Champions of Magic, that television series?
Yes, actually, you know, with that royal family, we performed with several times. But before I tell you about that, we got invited back by President Clinton for a command performance. And the Queen was also a command performance. And the difference between a regular performance for them and a command performance is the Queen or the president specifically asked for you to perform for them. You know, and in the case of the Queen, we weren't going to go because we had another obligation in Phoenix or Tucson, I believe, you know, the following day. So there's no way we could have made it there. But she arranged for us to go on the Concorde. They wanted us to really be there. So that made it even more special. And then with President Clinton, every year when they have the show for the Ford's Theater, he picks an act to be on the next year, you know. So out of the performers performing in that year, which the first year for Clinton, I'm trying to think who was on. It's hard to remember, but Chicago was one of the acts, and Kevin Spacey was, you know, part of another one. You know, so some, if you know, fairly big names. And President Clinton chose us for the command performance the following year. So we performed at the Ford Theater, you know, 2 times, you know. And when you take your picture with them, it's kind of funny because they always have a camera. This is true with the royal family too. They follow you around with you know, they follow them around with the camera. And the president and the Queen, you know, are aware this camera is constantly recording everything they do. So when they take a photo with you, they're prepared to smile, and, you know, they're at their very best, but you're in shock. You know, you're about to shake hands, and the camera goes, you know, and your face is off because you just weren't like ready for it. So the second time with Clinton, we were like a lot ready for it. And I asked him, I go, can you take a picture with just my husband and I, you know, together? And he did. Instead of just the handshake one, I think I was in the middle, or he was in the middle. And we all three, you know, took a really nice casual photo together. You know, so you learn by doing. So whenever you meet anybody like that, remember, you know, smile and go like this the whole time, and, you know, forget your fears, put all the anxiety aside. And so
it's an honor, thank you, and then they get you thank, and that's the picture they take. They freeze that thank you, and yeah, not a good picture.
I think Jonathan, with our picture of the Queen, Jonathan's next to me, so we look like we're both meeting her, but he also had a picture with the Queen, which he does not like, so I've never used it. But I mean, his face looks distorted, and he's just in such shock, you know. And even myself, I'm kind of like this, you know. At least my face looks a little bit better. But I noticed that with everybody around me, because right after that happened is when I realized, wow, I mean, you have to be prepared to take your picture with her, you know, because it's going to happen quick, and that's what you receive, you know. So that's just a little bit more detail with that. With Princess Stephanie, we had performed it was a popular show that Richard Ross and his wife, Veronique, used to produce at the Princess Grace Theater, which is the royal family puts on and pays for. And it was they have their circus show. I don't know if you've ever heard about the Monte Carlo circus show. Every year there's a circus show in Monte Carlo that the royal family sponsors, and an award is given to the top performers. And if you're on that show and you're a performer, it's the place to be, because it's going to guarantee so many bookings around the world. So they do the same thing with magic. There's another one. It's a contest. Although we weren't part of the contest, we were there as guests, but they still gave us an award. So the celebrity guests are brought in to judge the show. And, Prince Rainier's there, the whole royal family. They're not judges, but they sponsor it and they put this on. One of the judges was Sean Connery. So at that event I met Prince Albert and, Prince Rainier. Not Princess Stephanie, because she was going through some of her problems they talked a lot about in the press in those days. So she wasn't available, nor was her sister. I forget her name. She has a sister. Anyway, that's that. We met them. And the most interesting thing about that show is after one of the performances, there's dinners every night. I mean, and afternoon, there's these lunches. You go up to the palace and have lunch with the royal family and with all the celebrity judges that were part of this show. And so you got to meet and kind of mingle with some of these people a little bit, but still it was formal, and you didn't get really personal or anything. But this one restaurant we came to one night, Jonathan and I were a little bit late because we were dealing with the producer that was at the show, that was attending, because he was going to be producing a show for us in Japan later, and he just happened to be in Monte Carlo. So he walked in late, and I was unaware about what was going on. Well, in European seating, they seat your husband between two other women, and the ladies next to two other men. You have like a different dinner partner than your husband. I think that's meant to promote people socializing more and getting to know one another. So you're not just with the same person talking to one person all the time. So when we showed up, they took Jonathan off to his seating, and then they took me off to my seating. And although I'd been used to that type of European dining, I wasn't prepared at all for, seeing Sean Connery sitting next to me as my dinner mate. That was shocking to me.
Wow.
He was already sitting there, and I was kind of late. I was going, oh my gosh. I mean, what do you do? And then across from him was not Prince Albert, the younger one, his son, I forget his name. He was sitting across from Sean Connery, and they were talking politics and different things. And with Sean Connery and myself, he welcomed me, go sit down, and he poured my champagne and wine and toasted me. And we had, and we actually talked a lot about bodybuilding, because he had been into it in his, younger years, before he became a James Bond character. So we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is fantastic.
Next to me was a magician. I'm not sure who the magician was next to me to my right, because Sean Connery was to my left. and the magician kept talking over my face here, trying to get his attention and talk to him, and very aggressive. And he couldn't understand this Japanese. He was from Japan, and he couldn't understand him very well, just because of the thick accent. And because I was there, I ended up translating what he was saying to Sean Connery. And basically he was asking him to come to Japan to be at a magic convention. I started cracking up, and Sean Connery just said, no, and he's so gracious. He says, no, I don't think it's is in my schedule to make it to Japan for your convention, but thank you, I'm flattered, that type of thing.
That's amazing.
but you understand how it is when you go to magic conventions and, you know, there's so many different characters.
Wow. Oh yeah. I mean, yes, yes. And asking Sean Connery to go to a magic convention is right in character with those characters.
Yeah.
That makes no sense at all. So I gotta ask you something, and please, if I offend you, go with it and just run. We'll change subject. It's not a bad thing. It's just I'm prefacing it too much. You did a television special years ago, and there was a wardrobe malfunction. Can we talk about that? I know you remember.
Oh, sure. Oh no, that's
Okay.
not. I don't have a problem.
So here's the thing. I had Dean Gunnarsson on our podcast, and I love Dean. He was awesome. He was on that television special with you, and I just want to share this story with you. Dean met William Shatner at a signing event for like Star Trek or just celebrities or whatever, and introduced himself and said, "Yeah, we actually met before, you know, back in the '80s, whenever that was. And do you remember me?" And he's like, "No." Well, it was a television show where the lady had the wardrobe. Yes, I remember that night very. You brought it all back to it.
I'm sure I did.
So tell everybody what happened. Explain it to them because I set it up way too hard.
Well, we had it was a live show, and it was the Orpheum Theater down in Los Angeles, and the Orpheum Theater backstage is very tight. I mean, there's enough room to just walk off and maybe have one prop in the wing and nothing else. So the stage manager had, he had a challenge placing where everything had to be for that big show. And so, we had our metamorphoses, and it was on first. We were the first to do the show, which first we showed Houdini's metamorphoses using his old crate, his original box, and performed it like him. And then afterwards, we performed our own trunk. So we had it all set up for the show, and then we went into, for wardrobe and makeup and get ready for the show. When somebody came running in saying, "Oh, we have an emergency. Randy is being taken to the hospital because he, sprained an ankle or, a rib or something went out."
The amazing Randy. The amazing Randy.
Yeah, the amazing Randy. And,
Okay.
I'm used to calling him Randy. So Randy went off to the hospital. In the meantime, Dean Gunnarsson had to rehearse. So they for some reason, our trunk got moved up on an elevator out of the way of where it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be backstage in the wing. And because of that rehearsal, somebody had moved it in this elevator, because that's where they hold a lot of props, and they just bring them down, and you have to utilize all your space. So it took a little bit before we could find it, and it was a live show, so I only had maybe a minute or two to adjust the cloth, and that was the first time we had done our split. I think it wasn't the split cloth, but it was a cloth that was was before it, because the split one we did a little bit later. But before we did the split cloth, we had the one that we dropped, and then Jonathan whisked the whole thing away. He didn't split it. And that was the first time we were going to be performing that on television. So I had to make sure it was set, was it, how it is. You have to check all your props and make sure they're right. And that had kind of gotten messed up. And I looked inside really quick to make sure everything was okay. And I didn't really have a lot of time for it. So because of that, my costume change, which I actually do, so I'm not really revealing magic here. I do a full costume change in the trunk, was moved. So the little bikini strap, which was supposed to be on the side of me, by my hip, had moved, and it was between my legs. And it would have been an X-rated show had I stepped out. I don't think Jonathan knew that what my situation was, because
He pulled you up. He kept trying to grab your hand in the video.
Yeah, I think he thought that it was just backwards, so I could still come out, and even though it was backwards, who would know? but it wasn't backward. So I kept trying to pull myself in, and he kept trying to pull me out. And so we had this tug of war, you know, that I don't think they showed a lot of that on the TV show, but it's a back and forth thing, and you know, for quite a while. With at the end, I didn't know what to do except close a box over my head, and you know, and got carried off. You know.
Oh.
So.
Well, Natalie's had an incident on stage. Her pants split at a show.
Right, yeah.
And it was
wow,
so,
no.
you cried, it was awful.
It did.
But it's like, things happen, right?
Right.
You are so
Yeah, you
sweet.
cry about it, and then later you laugh. You know,
Yeah.
it becomes funny. You know,
What are you
it's
gonna-
you have to be able to laugh at yourself. Otherwise, you take it so serious. You never get all over those things. And things happen to everybody at times.
Yeah.
And you know, at the end of the day, you know,
But I
you
had-
made lemonade out of lemons.
Say it again?
Oh, I just said at the end of the day, we made lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that show got us. It was one of Dick Clark's favorite TV moments, and he showed it many times on his bloopers and different shows. Because of that, you know, he had a big agency in LA, and we were signed by his agency after that. So we had all these great agents who, you know, who were the ones in the future brought us many of the fabulous worldwide jobs, you know. So
It was actually, as a magician, knowing it's a wardrobe malfunction. I think William Shatner says wardrobe malfunction or something. We'll be right back and goes commercial. But it was your sweet innocence, and the way you're pulling him down. It wasn't like if my wife was on TV with her pants split in that moment, she cried off stage. I don't think you cried off stage. It didn't seem like you were offended like that. It was just, no, I can't come up. I cannot come up. Yeah. It was awesome. That's why I was like, if you don't mind
had
talking.
he, you know, he saw the rehearsal, and had William Shatner not seen the rehearsal, it could have ended with me just halfway out of the box. I didn't have to get out of it, you know. No one knew that, but the reason they knew that is because, you know, he made a big thing about it, which was, you know, it really added probably a lot to the show, because the show needed a little bit of excitement, I guess. It was, you know, it was all, you know, Houdini seances. It, you know, I don't know how exciting that all is to a lot of people, you know, so I think it probably helped the ratings quite a bit.
So this is a weird question, but how crazy is it to know that you're going to go down in history, and 100 years from now, other magicians are going to be studying your guys' act? How does that feel? Has that sunk in? Do you understand that yet?
You know, I've never really thought of it too much, but once, you know, 2008 came and YouTube videos were on, like you were saying, Jonathan and I were pretty much isolated from a lot of the, I mean, we all were isolated from the broader magic world. If you heard somebody was doing a sub-trunk, like say ours, you'd hear it. Somebody would call you on the phone. I saw so-and-so, he was at a, you know, college theater, and he did your sub-trunk. Well, you know, but he wasn't on TV, so you never really got to see it. You only heard about these things. And I think for a long time, it kind of like upset us. So many people were, at the time I called it imitated, but and that's a true word for it. But it was also a compliment, because we had forged a path for so many magicians, you know, to do the type of style that we had created. And it didn't really dawn on me until YouTube came out, and then our DVDs were for sale, and then different magicians began writing us and thanking us for putting out the DVDs. And I remember there was this one particular magician that I'm very fond of, Sam Powers from Australia, who's an illusionist, who is one of the best that I know of doing the metamorphoses, you know, pretty much like Jonathan and I performed it. And he said to me that he finally can do our metamorphoses, because, you know, before that, you know, he felt guilty copying it, and wanted to make sure he was able to do it. And I go, sure, of course you can can do it, it's no problem. And he's the one that told me that, that you guys have influenced everybody, and I was going, wow. And he goes, and just go online and look, there's like so many magicians doing your metamorphosis. So I went and looked, I was going, gosh, I mean, there's hundreds and maybe thousands. And then I realized because those early days of YouTube, you could put anything on, and it was more difficult to take you off if you're copyright violation. Now it's a lot stricter, but there was so many metamorphoses on back in those days. So I mentioned that to Jonathan. It's like, I go, that's really kind of amazing. Look what we did, because now we were a little bit older, and your younger days are past, that you already lived and you created this work, and now you're there to kind of look at it, and you can see behind you a little bit about what you're leaving with your legacy. So we'll see what happens in 300 years. I'd like to have a time machine and travel there and look.
Right.
This book right here, The Art of Magic, PBS Books. I mean, you guys are in here among Thurston and Harry Houdini and Penn and Teller and the Pendragon. Clearly Impossible, right there. I mean, you guys are there. You're already there. It's just going to be more and more. Yeah.
I mean, the more your legacy goes on, the more some of that it gets recorded in history that way. Just like the magicians in my past.
That's one reason that we hesitated to do metamorphosis at first, because we're like, there's a lot of people doing it, and we cannot do it like the Pendragon. So why even try? I mean, you can't outdo that.
Right.
So, but we ended up getting one, and so we were like, well, let's try it. It's a lot more difficult than it looks, and
it's a lot of work. I mean,
it's fun,
if you want to make it good, it's a lot of work.
Right.
It's the hardest illusion we do.
Yeah. But still nowhere near how you all did it.
No.
No.
Well, yours might be more challenging just because of your different sizes, and it might be more work for you than it was for us.
And ours is a different version. Yeah. Ours is a different version than yours too.
Right. Exactly.
Our curtain is completely surrounded, because some of the resorts, we have people all over, and I don't want them seeing anything. So we have a full curtain. Yeah. Some of our resorts, I mean, people are sitting on the side of the stage, and that's how they watch the show the whole time. So it's like, I have, yeah. Wow. So magicandmusic.com.
The magic and the music. You have the in there, right?
Yes. Yeah. The is in there. You're correct. The magic.
Twice?
Yes.
The magic and the music.
Yes, that's correct.
I want to get the links right. All right. I'm putting that here.
Trust your wife. I listen.
Thank you, honey. And themusic.com. So also they can get the Sands of Egypt from you. They can find you on Instagram and Facebook. We're just running out of time trying to wrap everything up. What else do you guys have for sale? Does he have these as well on his website? Does he have a solo website?
I created a floating ball, my own floating version of a floating ball I call the Wonder Ball. That I sell. That does pretty well. People really like that. It's a one-person floating ball. You don't really need a whole setup. I mean, and it looks like a real floating ball. And what is that one Astro Ball? You've heard of the Astro Ball. It's a combination of I think a zombie and a little bit of a floating ball. You have a little bit more. You're able to expand it more. Instead of just keeping like a zombie behind the cloth, you're able to float it down your leg and even show parts of the ball. So my floating ball is based on the Astro Ball a little bit, but unlike the Astro Ball, I can float it all over, and around me and in front of me. And so I have that, and that's worked out for a lot of magicians because it's just a one-man floating ball without all the extra equipment and people. You might have
stage assistants. We have a podcast Facebook group. I'm going to put links because I know I've seen videos of Wonder Ball and the Sands of Egypt. I'll put all the links to that and to contact you if they want to buy that in the Facebook podcast group with this episode. Charlotte.
Oh, sure.
been amazing. I feel like I could talk to you for another 2 weeks because I feel like we only scratched the surface. I told Natalie, I have questions here I didn't get to that we'll have to get to next time.
Yeah.
I want to know about injuries, bruises. I know you got hurt loading in, loading out, doing these switches, doing the physical stuff that you did. I mean, there's so many other things, but we're just running out of time.
Maybe I can save that for my little story I'm going to tell, because I was going to tell the Sean Connery story, but I've already told that story.
All right, we'll save that for Patreon. So tune in
Yeah.
for Patreon. We'll find out about bumps and bruises because I know she had some. Charlotte, God bless you. Thank you so much for doing this with us. This means the world to me. This is better than any autograph, any just taking a picture with me.
Thank you. I'm honored to meet you both, and I hope to meet you live and give you big hugs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna claim it. I'm gonna ask for a hug.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that's everything. The only thing we have left to say is see you next week.
Check us out online at wesiseli.com and patreon.com/Wes_Iseli for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.